Wake of yesterday's successful raid on reviled terrorist and ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, President Trump headed to Chicago for a victory lap.
He's dead. He's dead as a doornail. And he didn't die bravely either. I will tell you that. He should have been killed years ago. Another president should have gotten him.
Well, Trump, missing an opportunity to unite the country, has kept up his attacks on Democrats and defended his decision to keep them in the dark about the raid this weekend, accusing them of being so untrustworthy that they would put American lives at risk. Trump first made those claims during a 40-minute rambling news conference on Sunday, where he divulged operational details and made unfounded claims about Osama bin Laden.
He died after running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. And Washington is a leaking machine, and I told my people we will not notify them until our great people are out. I mean, al-Baghdadi, everybody hears because he's built this monster for a long time. But nobody ever heard of Osama bin Laden until really the World Trade Center. A year and a half before the World Trade Center came down, the book came out. I was talking about Osama bin Laden. I said, you have to kill him. You have to take him out. Nobody listened to me.
Well, late tonight, NBC News is reporting that President Trump, according to current and former U.S. officials, quote, got a few of those colorful details wrong. Many of the rest were either highly classified or tactically sensitive, and their disclosure by the president made intelligence and military officials cringe. From where I'm joined by Jeremy Mash, former chief of staff of the CIA and the Department of Defense, Michael Beschloss, NBC News presidential historian. I don't understand, but I do understand why this president takes a moment of success for America. ISIS was evil. It beheaded good people. It was a horrible, horrible reality, a caliphate from hell. Everybody should unite around this. It's success. We always like success. And he's turned it into a weird kind of torture, like how he enjoys the guy's demise and how some sort of street fight has been won by the good guys and how poor and chicken the guy was who died. And who cares? He's gone. And then to go after Trump, going after Obama again. What's this about?
Well, there's no honor in spiking the football or doing an end zone dance.
Hot dogging it.
Yeah, hot dogging it when this should be a moment of national unity. And our compliments should go to the military and intelligence
and the
professionals.
Dogs.
Right. And those that supported them on the ground, put their lives on the line. And this isn't about, whether or not a previous president should have done better. I remember in the hours after the bin Laden operation was successfully completed, I was at CIA. The first person I called, because my boss, Director Leon Panetta, told me to, was I called General Mike Hayden, who had been George Bush's CIA director. I said, General Hayden, tonight we are standing on your shoulders, the shoulders of all the men and women for the past 10 years who've been pursuing this target.
It's like the end of the Cold War. Harry Truman started the Cold War because we had to. Reagan ended it. Okay. Maybe Bush ended it. But, it was both sides.
And everyone gave credit to everyone as well they should have. And this is a tradition that really goes back to the night of Pearl Harbor. After Pearl Harbor, Franklin Roosevelt invited the congressional leadership from both parties to come to the White House and talk about what they do next. That tradition went all the way through the Cold War and the post-Cold War era. Looks as if it's another that may be going by the wayside.
He also asked Wendell Willkie to cut a deal with the British before the war. He took the guy, he beat it in the election. Let's talk about this Pelosi thing, because Pelosi's an honorable person. She's obviously partisan, no more partisan than anybody else in Washington. A smart, patriotic person. In a statement today, Pelosi said the House must be briefed on this raid, which the Russians, but not top congressional leadership, were notified of in advance, and on the administration's overall strategy in the region. The statement is reminiscent, of course, of remarks she made directly to the president earlier this month, when she asked him why all roads lead to Putin. Now, a great moment when she pointed across the table at the president and said, why does everything lead to Putin? Why did he tell Putin before he told the Democrats?
Well, I think
about this raid, Putin.
I think he was probably his military officials were trying to deconflict the airspace so they could conduct the operation. But it points up to the larger point, which is, although the law may not require it, the better practice for a president in this case is to brief the congressional leadership on both sides of the aisle. Certainly don't just brief one party or the other, because ISIS doesn't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican before they come to blow us up. There's no room for partisanship in how you conduct the operation. There should be no room for partisanship in how you describe it or brief it.
Michael, all he had to do was call Pelosi up and say, don't spread this around. I'm just talking to the two leaders on this. We're keeping it really close. And then when Pelosi would have had to get up the next day and say, you know what, I have to give the president credit. As she's pursuing impeachment,
right.
I have to give him credit because he gave me the call the other night to heads up. Instead, she now has an opportunity to hit him hard and say, you have to.
And I think
is bad politics.
I think it would have been only great for everyone because, just as you said, it would have made him look larger trying to unify the country.
Which he ain't.
Well, was not on this occasion. And, you know, one example of someone who really did do that was in 1971, Richard Nixon, who, as you know, ran this very partisan campaign during the 1970 midterm elections. And he literally went on TV and he said, I'm now taking off my campaign hat. I'm putting on my presidential hat. And he was a lot more presidential in 1971. That positioned him in a way that made it a lot easier for him to occupy the center in 1972 against George McGovern and win by a landslide. So I think it's not only good government, I think it's good politics.
Well, in today's New York Times, national security correspondent David Sanger writes, the death of the Islamic State's leader in a daring nighttime raid vindicated the value of three traditional American strengths: robust alliances, faith in intelligence agencies, and the projection of military power around the world. But President Trump has regularly derided the first two. Sanger goes on to write that Americans' foreign policy in the age of Trump runs the risk of looking like a force of exploitation, willing to enter hostile foreign lands for two reasons only: killing terrorists and extracting resources. The mission of the American century, helping other nations develop their economies and build democratic institutions, is missing. You know, just a more narrow point, this president has dumped on the intelligence agencies since he got here. And there you have the CIA pulling off this, tough fight, going after the bad guy, killing him, getting it done. Excellent execution of intelligence. And the president gives himself credit.
Well,
He
started his presidency on day one by standing in front of the memorial wall at the CIA original headquarters building in Langley, Virginia, talking about not the sacrifice of those who had given everything for our country.
The stars on the wall.
Yes, he talked about how many times his face had graced the cover of Time magazine, and it went downhill from there. He compared CIA officers to Nazis. He denigrated intelligence agencies. He called them the deep state. He has criticized law enforcement, the FBI, and others charged with the counterintelligence mission. So, I'm glad that our intelligence professionals have kept their nose down. They've stayed focused on the target. They've done their job, but they have not gotten a lot of support from the president.
Well, how would you charge this up historically? A president of the United States who last week said, there is no team. I am the team. I am him. It's almost a statement of deity. I am the one who does everything. I do everything. I killed Baghdadi. I killed a bit personally.
And he said at the convention in 2016, I alone can fix it. So this is something that's gone back a while. You can only hope that, in retrospect, he'll look at what happened and the death of Baghdadi and see that our intelligence agencies performed extremely well and it was helpful to have allies. So that may make an impression on him.
Well, where did he get this wimping, by the way, and crying and running like a little baby? Where did he get all that info, that color of the game of this guy dying? I thought he blew himself up in a suicide vest. It's horrible enough.
I don't know where he gets that information. Maybe he had some reports from the field about what they saw in the tunnel. But I think it points up to this larger issue, which is that on the ground, the Kurds have been our allies. Yeah. They've provided vital intelligence. And the bigger strategy in the region has been to abandon the Kurds. That's a mistake.
Gets around, doesn't it, that we abandon allies.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.